Tonight's workshop is about using a still life. That is something that you have in front of you in order to paint. And I have here sitting on my desk, I have some of the nasturtiums from my garden in a cute little blue vase. So I have that in front of me. And then I also have in front of me this beautiful orchid that decided to start blooming for me this week. So I've got this beautiful blooming orchid. And if you saw the picture that goes with this workshop, you'll notice that the orchid is the one that I did the still life on. Um, and this is the orchid painting that I did. So this orchid painting is very loose. I like to paint loose. I'm not a photorealist. I don't want to do detail work. My work is very impressionistic. Thank you, Stay Home to Shop. He said, very pretty, so pretty. And so I like to just take the essence of what the object is and then do a painting based on that. Now, at the same time, I was testing a new paper when I did this. And so I'll be introducing that new paper to you in just a little bit. But I thought that the paper performed very well. And so this evening, though, I'm thinking that I will probably want to paint this one, which is the nasturtiums that are so cute out of my garden. Before this workshop, I went ahead and I took photographs of those plants because I wasn't sure, sometimes you cut something and then they'll go and when you put them in water, they don't always stay, right? Sometimes the flowers will just droop and then um, what you saw that you really liked is gone. So what I did is I went ahead and I took pictures of the flowers in the vase right here. And here's another, oops, there's another picture up close, right? And then these are printed on regular photo paper. And then I also did these two that are printed on just regular paper. And I wanted to show you those because I think it's very helpful when you're going to do a still life, and a still life just means you have something in front of you. It could be an egg, it could be a lemon. That's what a lot of people start with, right? When they're just learning. In this case, it's florals. It's helpful, in my opinion, it is very helpful if you take photographs at different angles of your piece, your what it is that you're looking at. And the reason for that is that, for instance, in this photograph right here, back behind here, there should be some little buds sticking up because when I'm looking at it with my eyes, I can see the buds. But the camera doesn't always see all that you see. So in this one, I took another picture at a different angle so I could see what the bud looked like. And that's why I did these other two as well, because I wanted different angles of the flowers right here. I wanted the flowers and facing in different directions so that I could pick, hey there, Shadow Michael, welcome in, welcome in. So that I could pick the best angle of the flowers and the best angle of the leaves and the best angle of the buds in order to put together my composition. So I don't have to do exactly what's in front of me. I can take a multitude of pictures and then morph together those pictures into the best parts that I think are in there. So I'm actually going to paint that where you see the flowers and you also see the buds, even though in this main picture, you do not see the buds. You see this one bud over here, but you don't see the little buds that are back behind here. But I want to show those buds. So I think it's helpful to take your photograph in different positions. The same is true of the orchid. Before I did this rendering, well, for one thing, I did just a little warm up, right? I think it's helpful if you do warm ups on smaller pieces of paper like that. But I also took photographs. So here is the main image right here, showing the leaves and that beautiful flower. and what's coming out of the front of it, as well as, what do the leaves look like? There's this little crazy one that's kind of coming off the side. Then I did some detail pictures. So I got in closer, right? And I was able to change my angle so that I could see this flower behind it and this flower here. So, because I wanted to know the positioning of the petals and everything. And then this one, because I wanted to get the feel for what this looked like. But it's not, if I looked at this same angle, you see how that little branch, it goes over a leaf, and I wanted to see what it looked like on its own, just like that, to get a feel for what those buds looked like. So I think, as I say, I think it can be very helpful if you take photographs of what your still life is going to be at different angles, so that as you're painting, you can make decisions based on other looking at the piece from other angles. So you're actually morphing a reality in your painting, right? But again, this is what I ended up with. You see how this is out here, but it's not over top of the leaf because I wanted to feature these little buds out here, right? And the one behind this one. And then this is just all made up. Although I did look at the roots and kind of made it up as I went along. Oh, so let's talk about what are we going to use to paint the little vase full of the um, nasturtiums. Now, also, let me mention to you that you can go to if you're on YouTube, you can go to the posts tab on my channel, and I put these pictures there for you to download and print off if you want to, or to pull up on your phone so you can follow along. If you want to do one of your own of the orchid, then these pictures are also there for you to print off or to look at as a reference. I'm going to do the nasturtiums tonight, but if you want to apply the same concepts and do the orchid as we paint along, that's fine too. You can go to my website, and I've also in the event. So for each one of these workshops, I create an event on my website. And if you go to the events tab on my website in the menu, and let me make sure that y'all know where my website is. There we go. It's right here. Website, beatsart.com. So if you go to my website and you go to the events page, you will also see those photographs. Now, after I do a workshop, I also will create an article. I write an article about it. And that'll be sometime over the course of the week. And so once that article's written, you can always go in there and click on the article, and it will also show you the reference photos. Okay, but tonight I did put the reference photos that I just showed you in the event, under the event for tonight. And it may end up under the past events if the time is already started. So it may not show up as a coming event because we're already live, right? It's already started. Okay, the what we're going to use tonight. Oh, thanks for the hearts. I appreciate it. What we're going to use tonight is watercolors and we're going to be very loosey goosey. Okay, so no stress. Anybody can do this from beginner on up. And a lot of times you will see watercolors in a little set with little pans in it, and it's dry. This is what the dry paint looks like right here, right? Dry like that. Um, However, tonight I'm going to be working with tube paints. Um, you can work with either one. Okay. I love how juicy tube paints are. And these are actually from yesterday when I was doing the orchid, and you can see they're just dry right now. But if I want to juice this up, I just spray it with water and then add a little bit more of the tube, and then I'm ready to go. Now, because I'll be working with this imagery right here, the nasturtium, what do we have? We have yellow, we have like a deep sort of red, we have oranges, We have beautiful greens, and I love that the vase has like this beautiful cobalt blue to it. As a matter of fact, the color that I picked for the vase is cobalt cerulean. So so it'll kind of match the theme there. But if you wanted the vase to be red, if you wanted the vase to be yellow, if you wanted the vase to be clear, that's the beautiful thing about being an artist is we get to make it whatever we want, right? But, you will need some of course, since it's a floral, you're gonna need some sort of green, right? And, so the main green that I use is called phthalo green, phthalo. Let me get that up close and see if you can see the name right there, phthalo green. Um, and then there's another green here, which is a cobalt green. So this one says right there, cobalt green. Now these are different brands. You may have your favorites. These are just some of the ones that I really like. That was the Core Watercolors right here, QOR. And then this is the Schminke. So it says Schminke right here. And then I also love working with Daniel Smith. So here is what a Daniel Smith looks like here. And these are all just individual tubes that I've collected over the years. These tubes are the larger 15 millimeter, and the ones from Core come in 11 millimeters. So you see they're a little bit different in size. But a lot of companies also sell their watercolor paints in these little tubes like this. So this is a Daniel Smith, and it's a little 5 milliliter tube. And I have tons of these little tubes. Here's another Daniel Smith in a little bitty tube like this. So these oftentimes are much more economical than buying the big tubes. But you do need to look at pricing because sometimes I find the 5 milliliter um, so that's what, 1/5 of a 15 milliliter or 1/3, right? So this is a full tube at 15 milliliters. These are 5 milliliters, three of these to make one of these. But sometimes these are costs half as much or even more than what these do. So the bigger ones. So I always compare the prices between the little tubes and the big tubes to decide which ones I want to get. But also, of course, the volume of what you do is important, because, for instance, this is the core magenta, and I use so much magenta that this 11 you can see I'm almost empty from the 11 millimeter, right? 11 milliliter. There's another company called Holbein out of Japan, very good company. And this is actually a tube that I inherited from somebody, meaning somebody who was a watercolorist and she passed away, and her husband let a bunch of us artists that were in a club um, get her paints. So this is actually an old one of Holbein, but you know what? It is still good. If you keep it in good conditions, meaning under air conditioning, look, it's still very juicy on the inside. I mean, you can have watercolor paint that's 100 years old as long as you keep it in the right temperature. Don't let it get too hot or don't let it get too dry, whatever. And Lordy knows in Florida, it's very humid most of the time, right? But those are just some of the ones that I like to play with. What I like to do is I like to create little swatches out of them so that I can see what the colors look like. So, for instance, this is the Daniel Smith quinacridone sienna, which has kind of an earthy orange color to it, right? Which to me would go really well with these nasturtium. And then this one is Aussie red gold. So you've got a little bit of the orangey color, but lots of yellow in it as well. That can be a good one for what we're doing. Ooh, this color. Scarlet Red by Schminke. That's this one right here, the Scarlet Red from Schminke. Gorgeous. So you see, it really helps to do little color cards. And what these are is I took postcards, so they're 4x6 paper, watercolor paper, and you can see the postcard on the back. And it's 4 inches by 6 inches. So I just sliced 2, 2, 2 out of each. So I get three of these little pieces out of each postcard. And those are perfect for me to be able to do these swatches on. Here are some of the greens right here. That's a green from Daniel Smith. That's this little tiny one right here that I'm going to have to buy a big one because I'm using it like crazy. Love that color. And this is that cobalt green from Schminke that is so pretty that I showed you a minute ago. This one right here. And so that's how I can tell. I just sit there and rifle through my pile. You see the piles that I have of them? Yeah. So I rifle through them to look at the colors and decide which ones I want to go together for the project that I'm working on. Now, if you are, that's because I'm working from tubes, and so I can pick the individual tubes and squeeze them out into a tray of some sort in order to do my artwork. You see here that this is just a dish, like this happens to be Corel, but you can also, my favorite is a ceramic dish. And I just an open dish to me is great for doing color mixing, preparing for your session. Now, another thing that I like is these are by Crow Canyon, and they're like little mini butcher trays. Aren't they cute? And they are like perfect for color mixing in as well. So we'll be using both of those tonight when we go over top of the table. We're also going to need brushes. So this is I'm gonna try to stick to the Fumui brushes. This is from a set that I got recently of the Fumui. There's the brand name right there. Let me make sure you can read that, Fumui. And it'll be linked in the description of the video on YouTube. And these are the four types that I'd use this little one for the details, and I use this one for, of course, big areas. So those are the brushes that we'll be using. I use a Faber-Castell collapsible um, container for my water because as I'm painting, it has this tulip edge and you can just stick your brush right on there, and I love that. So I always have several brushes going on each one of my water containers, and I have two of them on my desk. So here's the other one right here. And notice it already has a brush on it from my last painting session. Um, okay, and then of course we need paper to paint on. So usually when I do these workshops, I will show you this one, which is my favorite Canson XL watercolor paper. It's 140 pounds, and this is the 9 by 12 size. This is what I do most of my smaller work on. This is my go-to pad for doing watercolor painting. However, tonight we're going to do a little bit of different. We're going to use some different paper that I just got recently. So the first one, just like the brand Famui here with the brushes, um, and this is stuff that I bought, by the way. They didn't give me these. I bought them. Uh, the Famui notebook notebooks. So this one is a 20 sheets of 140-pound 100% cotton paper. So I was just testing this out for you guys to see if I like it. I love this paper. This is great paper. It's nice and thick. It doesn't have too much of a texture to it. There is some, but it's not overly textured. And you can see it takes the paint really well, especially a granulating paint like this. You get nice granulation. So we are going to do our warm up on this notebook. And then I also purchased at the same time this Famui watercolor block. So this is cold press watercolor paper, and it's again 100% cotton, 140 pound, and it's in a block. So I know I've shown y'all blocks before. This one, the Canson, is what they call a pad or gummed pad. So what that means is that up here there's gum up here holding the pad together, but the rest of it is loose. Do you see that? And so with this one, this is called a block. And what a block means is that There's gum here. There's gum here. There's gum here. And then at the top here, you see where it says open? There is a little area right here, just right here where there's no gum. So that's where you're going to put your palette knife in there, um, a butter knife. There's something called and I left it out there. It's my leaf. It's called. It's a block leaf. They call it. I'll be sure to link it in the description of the video. And you put it in there, and then you go all the way around, and you release your paper. And the reason that a block is fantastic is that you do your whole painting on here and it prevents the paper from bowing, from curling too much. Okay, so that's why we're going to be using this Famui watercolor block tonight. And that's exactly what I did this other painting on. All right, here. Oops, this one. So I did this one on that Famui block and love the paper. The performance is really nice. So let me just set that aside right there. And let's see, do we need anything else? Usually, besides my little water containers, I also have a little one of these little Asian brush rests. And these normally come in sets of two. I have one on this table and one on my other table. And it's super easy to rest your brushes on this when it's on the table to keep it from. So always have to have one of those on my table. All right. What I'm going to do then is we are going to go over top of the table and get started with doing a sketch, a little bit of experimentation um, in the composition. You know, how are we put together this nasturtium painting before we actually get to the better paper, right? Because I like to sketch and then I go to the better paper for the final piece. So we are going to go over top of the table. Okay, you can see I have lots of paint here and I have my colors so I kind of know the range that I want to be in. You can see there are already some colors on my tray here from doing the orchid, right? You can see those purples and those pinks. I actually did use just a tiny bit of this orange, but we're going to use more of that orange tonight. And what that means is that before I get started here and I put more colors into my tray, I want to go ahead and just use a paper towel. I have a little spray bottle of water here, and I'm just going to spray this and get a little bit of that the paint that's already sort of mixed around there. I want to pull that out so that we can do some fresh mixing today. There we go. I have some pretty purples and some pretty blues in here. I have some greens already from yesterday's session, so I don't need to get rid of all of it, but I do want to just pull some of those mixes that I was doing out of there so we can do some fresh mixing. This is what I do before my sessions. Actually, this had paint in it earlier as well, and I had to go to the sink and take that paint out because I need to do some more mixing in there today. Okay, good. There we go. We got a lot of that out of there. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just sort of give ourselves some areas to grab some paint from. Okay. So what I'm going to do, because I'm looking at my still life in front of me here, I can see my flowers, but you can't. So I'm going to grab the photograph, my main photograph. So like I said, I did close-ups and I did a main photograph, meaning where the leaves are is where I want the leaves to be in this photograph. I like the idea of this one little leaf hanging out over here on the side and everything else sort of pushed over to the other direction. But in these other pictures here, I wanted to look at what is the orientation of the flowers themselves so that I can make decisions as I'm see how this leaf comes over here and then it's in the middle. And on this one, it's over on this side of the vase. So that's what I was doing, was looking at all of those different perspectives for that. So I'm definitely going to want to do the leaf over on the left. Let me go ahead and I'm just going to use the paint I have and do a sketch. That way we can make decisions on what paint colors we want to use afterwards. I'm just going to make use of what's here and use the smaller sketchbook. Now, you can use a pencil at this point if you want to. I usually don't, but let's grab a pencil and just see, maybe kind of give ourselves an idea of where we want it to go. Okay, can you see that? Yes, you can see it. Good, 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 good. Let me move my water over here and move my flowers right there. Hello, flowers. It's nice to have flowers on your table when you're working. All right, so the where's the main picture? Here's the main picture right here. Like I said, um, you can pull it up on your phone just by going to my YouTube channel and looking at my latest post, or also on Instagram. I put this picture up on Instagram as well. So you do have access to the photograph to look at it. So I'm just going to do a basic, like here is the top of the vase right here, just going very lightly, and then the vase comes down like this. Oops, not quite like that. There we go. Kind of like that. And then it has a little loop there. And then this is going around the back like that. I'm just kind of getting an idea of where I want to place things. There we go. So I've got my vase, and then I've got one leaf that I'm looking at here. The nice thing about having your still life, meaning having your item in front of you, is you can pick it up, you could touch it, you can look at it, you can turn it, so you can get different perspectives. So the main thing is that I want this leaf that's coming out here, and then the leaf sort of comes around like this. Okay. So I've got the one leaf positioned. I've got another leaf that comes, a couple more that are coming out and around here, another little one that comes around here. So this is where you're going to be looking at your composition. Let's bring this over here. And then the flowers, I want to position the big yellow one up here. So right now I'm just doing a big blob, a big blob where that flower will be, instead of actually doing petals and everything. I'll be doing petals when I'm using my brush. And then there's the other little one comes over this way. That's one of the other flowers. And then the big orange one is over here. So we've got a big orange flower right here. And then we've got some more green leaves coming this way. These are over this way like that. And there's another big one over here. So we're just getting a feel for how we want to position things. And then when I'm working on the bigger paper, you'll notice this spreads out a lot. I like the way that this composition shows a lot of movement off to one side, but because I'm on this up and down paper, I can't get that side movement as much. It's actually going to go off of the side of the page here. And there's a little bud right here. So I've got a little bud and I can put another leaf out here. And there's another leaf up behind here. There we go. So that's the basics of what I'm looking at composition wise. But this is your opportunity to change things around, reposition your flowers if you want to. make your vase shorter, make your vase taller, right? Do all of those kind of fun things. Okay. Um, so I'm going to put my pencil away. When I did this other warm up over here, you'll notice no pencil marks, but it's not exact either to what it was that I was doing. I was just warming up. And so I didn't even draw. A lot of times I don't draw. But for something like this that has a vase, I often will draw. So I'm just going to use the paints that I already have in here as opposed to doing something, putting some new colors in. Although I do need a little bit of this color green that I don't have in there right now. This is the Cobalt Green Pure from Schminke. And then I only have a tiny bit of yellow left from last night. So let me put some of this cadmium yellow light. Ooh, thank you, Flower Gazer. Yeah, I love that blue vase. Okay, there's some cadmium yellow, which is a great mixing yellow to get other kinds of greens. Look at me, I have paint on me already. Let's clean that up. Actually, y'all, this blue vase, I was gonna say I think it was a Ritz-Carlton vase, but it wasn't. It has carving in it, etching, and it came from my church thrift store. I love looking for colorful vases at my church thrift store. Okay, so we're going to use, okay, here's a trick when you're doing just warm up, okay, that I learned from another artist, and that is use a flat brush like this, okay? I think it was Jody Lynn Lee that I learned that from. Um, and that way, because your first thought is, oh, let me grab one of my round brushes, right? And let's just do it with a brown brush. But when you're just sketching, I'm going to encourage you to use a flat brush like this because it just makes the marks a little bit differently, and you have to give up the sense of perfection. Okay, because we're not doing this right now for perfection. We're doing it just to sketch. And so by using this big type of brush like this, you have to let go of that sense of perfection that you want to get from a round brush. Okay, so let's just I usually like to start with the lighter color first, and so we're just going to throw some yellow up here. Now notice I'm not just doing everything flat. I'm doing this, right? I'm kind of giving it a um, I'm twisting it back and forth here. So we've got another one up here. We've got another one here. What I'm doing is I have a little circle there, so I'm just planting my flower in that circle area. All right, so that's taking this yellow one right here. And it's not the same color as what I have in nature yet, but I'll get there. I'll get there. I have this Turner's yellow that's a little more orangey, or I can just throw a little bit of orange in with it if I want to. So let's turn it a little bit more orange like that, just by throwing a little bit of that orange in there. There we go. So now we've got that flower in place. Let's look at, now I don't like where the other flowers are looking in this photo. So I'm going to switch to one of my others here. And that's why I always have my reference photos handy. I'm really looking at this one right here. This one is a deep red. Ah, I don't have a deep red here, but it's a sketch, so it doesn't matter, right? I have some fun purple and some pink. Can you see that on screen? I've got the purple and the pink down here, and I have some of this orange right here. So maybe we can sort of mix these together and get something a little bit deeper, a little darker. And what if I throw a little bit of this, the opposite, if you want to darken your colors, the opposite color on the color wheel. So let me grab a color wheel. So right now I've got kind of a reddish color going, a red orange. And if I throw a blue in with it, You see how it neutralizes the color right there? So I've got the blue and I put it in with red orange and I'm going to end up with a with that sort of mousy color. Now if I come over here, I've got a heavy green. See the green right there? So I've got this like blue green and I'm going to throw some red in with it. And you see how it neutralizes the color. So it's going to make the color slightly darker. So what I'm going to do right now, ooh, I'm going to throw a little bit of this green in with this to darken the color. Bam. Okay, darkened it right away. So it neutralized that color and gave me a darker version of it. Since I don't happen to have the scarlet out on my table right now, but that was a good way to get a darker color. So I'm going to come over here and which one is it? It's this right here. Okay. I'm putting a couple of the petals right here and yee. Remember, we're not going for perfection, so don't worry if it doesn't look like the picture, right? But that gave me a nice sort of dusky. You see how it gave me a really dark color right there? By just adding that tiny touch of green in with that red orange that I was working on. Okay, that's good. It's not going to be as punchy as when I take it right out of the tube and use this scarlet red. You'll see when I do that. Ooh, gorgeous. But right now, what are we doing? We're sketching. We're sketching. Okay. So I like where that's going. And the reason that I sketch is what if I decide after I do this little sketch, oh, but you know what? I need to separate these two a little bit more. I need to add some more green here. I need to, eh, that's why we do this. So this is just taking from the ideas of what's going on. All right, I'm going to go into this orange and we're going to do the other one like it is. Let's see what direction. I'm looking at my pictures. Ooh, look at that. Look at that. Okay. So let's just grab this. Let's put one out here. We've got one that sort of comes in here, right? It's hard to be a perfectionist when you're using a big old honking straight brush, it's flat brush like this. Okay, cool, 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 cool. Nice. So that gives, now I'm leaving the centers with a little bit of white because there's other stuff that's going to go in those centers. And actually, what I love about this flower right here is that see how it has that sort of rosy, deep center to it. But you have to let it dry for a minute before you put it on, otherwise it would just disappear, right? If you're uh-oh. Is the internet going down? No. Okay. Because we've had cold in these storms here. Oh my gosh, it's like my internet has been up and down like crazy. Okay. But I've left that white in there so that I can put, fuzzies and the center in there a little bit later. Okay, I'm taking some of that darker red and now I'm going to put this in here and because you can see here that we've got this little bit like that. Ooh. And when I have the proper scarlet, I'll be able to do it a little bit better. There we go. But at least it gives me the idea of what I'm working with. Nice. Okay, cool. I like it. Now what I didn't do yet was this little bud. Hello, bud. Way out here, getting ready to pop a beautiful orange flower. Okay, here we go. I'm just gonna throw some of the orange in here because that's the little bud that's out there. Nice. Okay, now let's look at the vase. I'm going to start with the vase, very light blue. And this isn't the right color blue, but it's okay. It's the blue that I had on my palette, right? We're going to use it. We're going to use it anyway. So I'm just doing a blush of blue here. There we go. Because you can always deepen the colors later. Don't I'm actually going to make it, it's a little bit deeper right down here, isn't it? I want a little bit of this here. I'm going to add a little bit of water and then bring this part around here. There we go. Right? If I've got this big flat brush, I can't be too careful. Dink. There we go. It's just the impression. Okay. Now I got some paint over here. All right? Just little fluff. Now, let me see if I have my repair brush. Yes, I do. Okay, so this is a Princeton Velvet Touch. It says right there, Princeton Velvet Touch blender. So you see um, these short little hairs. It's actually it's a pretty stiff brush. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use that real quick, and I'm going to come in here and I'm going to remove those colors that got on there, the little dots. It doesn't always take it all up, but if you have good paper, remember this is 100% cotton paper. If you have good paper, that will help you to lift things back out. So that's one of the tricks that professional artists use is they use really good paper and then they can lift those little mistakes right out and then you don't even know that it was there. Like that. But you do need one of these stiff blender brushes to make that happen. It helps a lot. Okay, so we've got the impression going on here. Now let's look at some of the greens. Actually, I need it to be a little bit darker across the back here, don't I? Just a little bit. Eek. There we go. Along the rim. Why not? And I'm going to need a little bit more. There. All right. Let's put some leaves in there. Let's see what happens. So this is that green that I just added. It's the cobalt green pure from Schminke. And so this is just to give us an idea of where the leaves are. Right here. And what I liked about this was that, and I am going to have to use a smaller brush for that. Okay, okay. Let's go ahead here. We've got a leaf coming in here. We've got one sort of, let's add a little bit of a, like that. We've got another one here. Oh, you know what I didn't add? See, that's why I'm sketching because the buds are green. Okay. And we've got a big one over here. This is after I do this, then I'll be making decisions. Ooh, what I'll evaluate it and decide if I want to move things around, right? And there we go. Oh, some yellows coming in there. That's okay. It's all good. It's all good. This is another green one right here. And then this green one in the back is likely to be a little darker. So I have some of that deep green here, and I'm just adding it to my brush. So let's make this one just a little bit deeper since it's in the background here. And then this one is also a little bit in the background back here. So I added a little bit more water so it would be halfway. And why not? We'll pick up some more of that yellow. It's pretty. I like how the yellow enhances the leaves there. Right? A little bit of yellow on here too. Like that a lot. Okay, and then of course there's a big old green leaf right back in here. So I'm just going to sort of gently fill that in just to show that. And then what else do we have? Down inside the vase, one of the reasons I did the vase earlier is because down inside the vase are the little ends of your, right? Can you see the little ends there? where I stuck it down in the water. So I am going to need to put those in here. So I'm just sort of bringing that in. It's actually going to be a little bit browner, but that's okay. Get that. I'll do the brown a little bit later. There's another big one that comes in over here. And then I am going to switch to a smaller brush, the smallest of the brushes, because I want to put in the little, what's cool about these is that they have this, you see how wiry the leaves are, like the stems? Aren't they fun? So they go in all these different directions. And so that's what I want to do is I just want to use the small brush and I want to put some of those little wiry bits in here. So this one comes down and around like that. This one comes out like that. This one comes from here and like this. And there's a little bit of green on there as well because it's a bud. There's some here. So this is where you can sort of come in and add in your little details here. This one is really cool because it's kind of a little bit screwy like that. Fun, fun. And there's another one that comes there. All right. And then what I said that I was missing in this picture, there's a tiny little bud right here. So let me see. I took another picture of it so that you see the little bud sticking up right here. I love that little bud. So let me go ahead and since I have my detail brush, I'm going to add a little bit more yellow in with it so it's really lightly colored. And I'm just going to put the little bud coming up here because that was part of all of this. And I'm going to make these a little bit more yellow. I like to do my leaves in various layers so that I'm changing the colors around. Okay. The only thing that I see that's kind of like, in my opinion, unbelievable is right in here. Do you see that? Right in there? Because there's too much light coming through. I need to, but actually, if you look at this picture, there is a lot of just mess of branches go in all directions. So as long as I throw a few more branches in there, then that may make this a little bit more believable, right? That's a whole idea is I'm looking to see, of course, I'm not doing something, I'm not trying to make it perfect, but I do want to sort of give it the impression that it's somewhat, hey, S. Diedrich, welcome in, that it somewhat follows nature. Now, what I'm seeing from my sketch is that this flower has to be up a lot higher. Okay. So that's what I'm doing as I'm doing this. I'm sort of evaluating what is my composition looking like. I like where this is. This has to be off that direction more. And this flower needs to be higher. So I'm making mental notes for myself. I like the colors of what's going on, but I'm trying to figure out sort of positioning. All right. Let me go ahead and explore the middle of the flowers a little bit. So I'm going to look at them. The nice thing about having them in front of you is you can look at them and you can kind of see what's going on the inside right there. You see that? So, oh, there's that little bud. Do you see the little bud right here? It's so cute. So that's why I just love having the flowers right in front of me. Okay. Um, oh, it looks like I was holding it over that direction too far there. Maybe you can see that better right there and right there on the inside. What about this dark one? This dark one's actually a little bit yellow in the middle. Okay. So that's where it helps to just sort of inform what's going on here. Let's put a little bit of this yellow orange into the middle of this one. And This one has yellow in the back, but it's gonna end up with some lines in it. That's okay. I'm just gonna put the yellow in the back there. And then this one just has more yellow in the back there. Ooh, the interesting thing about these flowers is you see how they have this back behind? Even this flower right here has that big stake, and here we've got a big, right? So I may want to come in here and put that in right over here, coming off the back of it. And that doesn't look quite natural, right? It does not. Okay, well, maybe I won't do that in the final one then. I may want to show one of the flowers from the side so that I can get that little tail in there. Um, but that's why you do a sketch, right? Now, another thing that's interesting is down inside these flowers, there are little lines in there. So I'm just going to take this, again, the combination of the purple and the magenta here that I have on my palette from yesterday. So it's nothing new. And I'm going to take that on the small brush and go down inside here and just put little lines because that's actually kind of what's down inside there. Okay, the same is true here. You've got like little lines coming from the center out. You don't have to get so crazy with your details if you don't want to. Um, just something to sort of give it the look of the center radiating out, right? So, all right, I'm going to call that sketch done. Now, there are some things you can do with the leaves that I'll show you when we do the actual one, the next one on the larger paper, and we change to some different colors on our palette here. Okay, I'm actually going to use this square brush, and I'm going to get rid of this pink and purple mix right here because we're going to be putting a red in there instead. So let me make sure you can see this. So as I'm working, if I'm working like this, not from a pan, but from just the tubes, then I just squeeze out the paint, and I'm constantly doing this where I'm clearing areas like that. And so I have areas to work. Let's do that. Okay, cool. There we go. And that'll be ready for me to put new colors on there now. Um, you know what? You don't even have to have a fancy plate. If you just have a paper plate and it's white, one that's like a plastic plate that's white, just use that. You don't have to do something fancy. But I like the Corel and the porcelain. Okay, well, I'm happy with the basic direction that this is going in. Um, the cool thing here with these leaves is you see how there's a little yellow spot in the middle of the leaf right there, and then it radiates out. So we'll have some fun with that when we get to the larger one. It doesn't always work for these small ones. And I also let me just put my signature on it, right? What color? What color? What color? I really like that orange. So I'm going to grab the orange with the little brush, and I'm just going to put my signature here just so that when I look back, I'm like, oh yeah, I remember when I did that. Especially if you have a sketchbook. How many of you, like me, have sketchbooks that you've had for years? And you're like, man, half that sketchbook still needs to be filled. Right? Yikes. Okay, so that's a good quick sketch. It gives me an idea of placement and the fact that I want to change a few things. Yeah, right? S. Diedrich is like, yes, for the books. I know. I have a million sketchbooks. This is, S. Diedrich, you weren't here earlier. What I was showing is that this is a new one that I just got that I'm experimenting in. I really like it because it's 100% cotton, and there are 20 sheets in here. But of course, you can use both sides. If you're using it as a journal, you can use both sides, right? And it's 140-pound watercolor paper. It's by Fumui, Fuumuui. Um, and it's just, I love that it's spiral because I like to be able to turn right and have the full flatness of the page. But like I said, because it's a journal, you can just go with both sides if you want to. Another thing I like about this paper, because it is 100% cotton, is do you see the blooming right here? Okay, that was this blue right here with lots of water. And I love when cotton paper like this blooms. Some people don't like that, but I love when it blooms and you get unusual, unexpected things happening. Um, and it's because of the nature of the 100% watercolor paper. All right, like I said, we're doing impressionistic. Let's go ahead and pull out the big guns here. We've got the Fumui 100% cotton again, 9 by 12, 140-pound paper. And this is on a block. So it's glued on all the edges here. And there's a tiny opening at the top here where we will take it off after it's finished. Not before, but after it's finished. All right, let me make sure this is going to be all the way. I think I'm going to have to adjust this so that you can see the whole thing. There we go. Okay. So now you can see the whole thing. Let me move this other. Let me move my YouTube folks over here. There we go. So I can still see the YouTube comments if you want to comment on YouTube. All right. And this is going to go right here. Let me see what colors I'm going to add to this because I love this orange, but it's similar to this cadmium red light. So I'm going to add just a little bit more of the cadmium red light on there. It has that very orangey look to it, right? So this happens to be Holbein, but the color is cadmium red light. If you want to have a toxic-free studio, you don't want to use the cadmium colors. Okay, look on here. Do you see the little X right there? That means you have to be careful with this. You don't want to use it around children or animals. Um, you want to be responsible when you are disposing of it, that kind of thing, because it does have cadmium in it. But just so you know, you can get brands that say cadmium red light hue, HUE. If it says hue after the name, that means that is the non toxic version of that paint. Okay. Yes. Don't prick your finger and then get this in it because it's a heavy metal, right? Oh, and but you can, it's very stable when it's in the what do they use in this? Gum arabic, okay, the binder that's in it. If you're using the acrylic paints, the oil paints, it's fine because it's bound in with a binder. But as Diedrich is saying, you don't want to get it into any cuts on your fingers or anything like that. Okay. So that's why people generally prefer to pick one that says hue instead of the actual cadmium. But you can see right on there the little warning. And this, I inherited this from somebody. So I'm going to use it until it's done. But you're right, S. Diedrich. You want to watch and make sure you don't have any cuts on your hands when you're using it. But it's that beautiful orangey red color right there. Now, I also want to put on here the scarlet. So this is Schminke, and it's the scarlet red. So this is going to give us that beautiful red that I couldn't get earlier. And I'm just going to stick it right over here, just a little bit, not a lot. You can always add more if you've got the tubes. In the long run, these larger tubes, once you find the colors you like to work with, in the long run, the tubes are more economical, the bigger tubes, okay, than buying the pans. But and I love the juiciness of the color coming out of the tubes. Okay, so you can see the difference here. This one's much redder, deeper red. This one's more orange, right? So we're going to put those aside. Now, this is a cadmium red. Let me see if it says hue on it. Cadmium yellow light. It does not say hue. Okay. So this is a cadmium color. This is by Core. That's that light kind of lemony color that's here. So you see the lemony color, but I want to use a warmer yellow. This is a cool yellow. So this is called Turner's yellow. I'll put these colors in the description on the video of YouTube. Okay. So I'm going to take this, Turner yellow and put that out. That's my yellow that's not so bright. So you see how this yellow is warmer, little more dense in color, and this one is brighter. This is more like a lemon, and this is a little bit darker. This flower here is actually that warmer color, not so much that bright color. Okay, now what else do we want to put on here? I already have some of that green, but I'm going to need more. This is the cobalt green pure from Hordam Schminke. Let's put some more of that on there. Okay. Ah, this is a color by Daniel Smith called Green Appetite. And I have to get the bigger tube because I have fallen in love with this color for doing plants. Do you see what that looks like? It separates. You see how there's some brown separating out of it? It has a P on it. That means it's Primatech from Daniel Smith. It is a natural stone that they grind up, green apatite. And look at how rich that color is. You can go from super dark to this beautiful, sort of mottled, very natural looking. So we're going to put a little bit of that on here as well. And that will give me some of my darker darks, a little more drama, right? And so that's what's right here. And then, yee, this is, I always have a hard time selecting between these two right here. So these are both Daniel Smith, and you see how this is very orange, but I already have a bunch of orange here, right? That was that cadmium light. So I think I'm going to go with this one. Aussie Red Gold. Isn't that a beautiful color? Plus you can mix it with your other ones. So I'm going to put this one over here. Yes, I can squeeze these out into little pans and have them in, little pan collections. And that's what a lot of people online, will say, okay, watch me while I put my palette together. And what they're doing is they're taking the paint out of the tubes and they're putting them into the little pans, the little plastic pans that go into a palette. Okay, so I'm going to use oops, that was the Quin Sienna. Dang it. Okay, I didn't read it properly. This one right here is the Aussie Red Gold. There we go. And it looks gold when you put it out. So this is that Aussie Red Gold right here. And that's this one. It looks very golden when you put it out. Okay. And then let's see. I needed this this color of blue. So I have just tubes everywhere. Let me move these out of the way. This is that beautiful cobalt blue. So you're going to see the difference between this is a very light blue right here, and this one is cobalt cerulean, they call it. Doop. There it is, like that. So it's just a little bit darker, more like the vase that we have there. So if you see here, this was the light blue one, which is more like oh, I've heard of Quinn Red Gold. Yes, Lucky Liz. Oh my gosh, I am so in love with this color. This Aussie Red Gold. If you are doing a if you're doing a sunset, this is like you got to have this color. The Aussie Red Gold. You have to have the Aussie Red Gold because it just looks amazing for sunsets. As a matter of fact, this is just a piece of random paper. Let me show you real quick, like the Aussie Red Gold. And let me just get a little bit of it here. What I like about it is that when it's thick, you see how it has a very golden color to it. But then when you add a lot of water to it, you get this super warm yellow. So that even looks a little bit gold. But then I pick some of it up and you get this beautiful warm, you see that warm yellow right there? Mm. Or of course you can just keep adding more water and get like that really soft sort of golden yellow, which is perfect for a sunset. Oh my gosh, it's amazing. Amazing. So you go from this sort of reddish to this light yellow here, but very warm, perfect for sunsets and stuff. Ah, I just love it. Yeah. So and I learned from another artist. He said I'm adding this to my palette, and after I tried it, I figured out why. That's fantastic. Now, I do not have a sink nearby, but what I'm gonna do is I keep this near my, table. It's just a big yogurt container, and if my water starts to get yucky, like this is already beginning to get yucky, then I will just pour it into here because my sink is all the way on the other side of the house. Okay, and then we'll just do this, and then I'll put fresh water in there. Nice. Now I do have a second one that I've been dipping into when I need clean water, but this one, when I'm in the throes of painting a proper painting, I need at least 2 containers and oftentimes 3 containers of water. So let me I just keep this near my desk here so I can just fill up. You don't need to fill these all the way up. You just need to fill it to where the end of your brush will go in there. That's all. So I fill it to where it only goes to about here. If you're using bigger brushes, then of course you need more water. But if you're using smaller brushes like this, you just don't need as much water as you might think that you do. Okay, there we go. Yay, fresh water. Awesome. And I have beautiful colors to play with. Woo, it's the best. The best. Come on, water. There we go. Let me move these out of the way just a little bit more so I can still have access to that. All right. Good, good, good. So let's see what you are seeing. You see my colors here. You see the flowers a little bit off to the side there. And let's get the big pad here. Okay. Want to make sure you can see that okay. Yep, you sure can. All right, good. Good, good, good. Now, I'm not going to draw any lines. At this point, I'm not drawing lines, okay? I'm just gonna go with it and have fun. I'm going to start with the vase, and then I'm gonna build the rest of it around the base. And I want to have the orientation be like this photograph here, where I've got more coming out this side and that little bit of counterweight over here, right? From that picture. And which means it's going to be what's called a counterweight composition. So counterweight means I'm not putting the vase directly in the middle. I'm moving the vase slightly to the left because we're going to have this sticking out further on this side than on this side. Okay? So that's just a decision I made based on this little guy right here that I like so much. Okay, y'all, go back in there. There we go. So I'm gonna put this over here so I have the image to kind of guide me. And for the vase, I'm gonna start with this flathead brush. And I want lots of water to start with, and then some of that beautiful cobalt blue uh, or cobalt blue cerulean. Okay, from Schminke. Eek, there's a big glob right there. I don't want a big glob getting on my painting. So let's take a whole lot of that out of there. Well, more water, more water. There we go. So I generally start lighter and I'm going to give myself, I don't want the vase to be up too high. I'm actually going to have to shorten the vase just a little bit from what it actually is. So I'm going to bring this just above the middle. And here's the middle of the paper. I'm going over a little bit here. And this is where I'm putting the base right over here. And we're going to bring this down, right? We're going to bring the sides down. See, that's why it's nice to use this flat brush because of the way that you can sort of get these edges. And then down here, it's doing this. And I'm doing impressionistic. I'm not trying to be a realist here, okay? Don't get your knickers in a twist, as my British mother-in-law used to say, right? Okay, so we're gonna bring this around here and bring it around here. There we go. And that is the base right there. Love the base. I want this, I'm picking up a little bit more paint because I want it to be a little heavier right in here where it meets the base of the vase. There we go. Like that. Nice. Now, in the beginning, I just sort of do sketchy, sketchy because later is when you're going to come in and you're going to do all of your detail work, right? So right now, I just want lots of water. So I have a very light blue, and I'm just going to bring the light blue right in here. Just light blue, just a little bit. There we go. Nice. Now see this paper being 100% cotton like the other one, it's just it is taking the paint so beautifully. Like I said, if you just joined, you can get this picture off of either YouTube, it's my latest community post, or you can also go to my website and get it off of the events tab. And the website is here, right here. It's deetsart.com under the events tab. And that's where you'll be able to find this event under past events since we've already started. And you can pick up these pictures or under the community tab on my channel on YouTube. Okay, nice. I'm happy with the where the vase is going. You know, it's not perfect, right? Because I'm not going for perfect. I'm going for impressionistic. What I do like is right down at the bottom here where there's the concentration of glass, you can see how it's a little bit darker. So I already put a little bit of that in here. And while this is still somewhat wet, I can come in and I can adjust this if I need to, right? Because we have 100% cotton paper, hallelujah. And that lets you lift paint and play with it if you want to. All right, cue. So I can adjust these edges a little bit. Yeah, that's the beauty of 100% cotton paper. If you're working on what's called cellulose paper, it's not always easy to work back in and lift colors and all. Okay, cool. So we have a vase. Lovely. Now let's go ahead and what do I want to do next? The flowers. The flowers. Need to do the flowers. Now the flower that's at the top here, this one, on my sample here, I had used the lemon yellow because what? I was using the color that was already on there. But I feel like I need it to be just a little bit richer in color. So I'm going to use that Turner's, what I call Turner's yellow, this one right here. Because Turner's yellow is a little bit more rich. And we're just getting a little bit, and if it's actually almost a little too orange, to my eyes. So what am I going to do? I'm going to pick up a little bit of this lemon, and I'm going to mix the two together, right? So you can mix these colors together to get the tone that you want. Plus, if I go in lighter, I can always add darker, right? But in watercolor, it's not as easy to go the opposite direction. All right, I put plenty of water in there, and this is just the loose part. Now, where do I want the flower? I want it slightly over here. I don't want it direct in the middle. I want it slightly over to the right. You also have to think as you're painting about how am I going to mount this after the fact. I like working with the 9 by 12 because it goes into an 11 by 14 mat. So you don't want to go all the way up to the edge. You want to leave some space up here for the mat, right? So I'm going to put, oh, yeah, nice color. Nice color. Nice color. Now, I might be able to use an orange, a round brush instead, but I like to challenge myself to use this one. Yes, I do. I like to challenge myself to use the square one. Like I said, I learned that from another artist, and I'm like, oh, you know what? I actually like the way that it looks with the round brush. It gives me a little bit more where it's a little more unpredictable than if I'm using a round one. Okay, so we've got the feel for the first one right there. Love the color that's coming out of there. Love the color. Okay, this side needs to be a little bit bigger, I can see, but that's okay. I'm just adding a little bit more. And I'm making it sort of sketchy by using this brush. Okay, cool. Oh, I like it. I like it. Thank you. That one's coming out nicely. Now, I think that I feel like here these are a little too close together, especially if I'm going to be pulling things out this way. I need a little bit of balance going in this direction. So let me look at some of my other pictures here. I like the shape of this flower, although I may want it to look, right now it looks almost like it's looking straight at you. And I kind of want it to, I want to turn it just a little bit. So let me look in my pictures here and see. Yes. See how I have it turned just a little bit right there, looking this way, like that. So I'm going to use this. That's why I take so many reference photos. And then I'm searching for what it is that I want to do. Okay, so now I'm going to take this picture and put it over here. And I'm going to work with that one for this flower over here, which is just above the edge of the where the base is. Ah, which color? Which color? I think I'm going to start with the lighter orange. This is the cadmium red light, which is kind of an orangey color. And I can always deepen it, right? So I'm just going to start out with the cadmium orange. And we're going to be right over here like this. So I'm just doing this one like this. Woof. Okay, that is quite, wow. All right, that is very orange. I'm gonna tap some of it off on my paper towel because it's like, whoa, you are orange, honey. Okay. And this one is interesting because it actually goes like this. Now I don't have enough. Gotta grab some more. It's okay. I'm okay if I don't have enough. And then we've got one that sort of comes out here and one that comes this way. So it's okay if you switch your arm around if you need to. Some people turn the artwork. I often will turn my artwork if I need to get a certain angle. Okay, so this one's coming up like this, and then it comes over. That's nice. And then this one comes this way. It's okay to leave greens, like leave space, okay? Leave white space. It's okay. You do not have to fill everything. Boop. There we go. Especially in the beginning, you're just deciding where placement is, and you don't have to fill everything in because you can come back later with other layers to do that. Okay, cool. I like where that one is. Now let's look at this other little one right here. The one that's like, ooh, okay, I'm getting paint everywhere as normal. So you see this one right here, so dramatic. It actually, yeah, it came from several. I have lots of this nasturtium growing in my garden. Let me just fix this real quick. I got some paint on there before I end up getting it everywhere. Let's get that off of there. Okay. Whoop. A little bit more. Cool. That way I'm less likely to get it everywhere. All right. I'm happy with where that's going. Now we're going to use the this darker red, but if you look at this darker red, it's not as dark as this is, right? Now I'm looking at the natural flower right here. And so it's a very rich red. I need to make this red a little richer. So I'm going to add a little purple, which I didn't have in a tube, but I had left on my palette from last night. So I just have some purple here and I can gonna combine the purple with the red. Yeah, that does it. It just knocks that red down just a tiny bit. I can always do something else with it later. Let me look at this flower right here. So this one's just below here. And I'm actually, instead of looking at the picture, I'm looking at the actual flower now to do this one. That's the beauty of the doing the still life is you can have the real thing in front of you. Oh yeah, love that color. Okay, we've got another petal coming out this way. And then, ooh, looks like velvet, y'all. They just look like velvet. So do not worry about covering the whole area. It's okay if you're leaving a little bit with nothing. It's okay. You can always fill it in later. There we go. So that's looking off this direction. So actually, I'm just going to get some of the color off of my brush. And I just want a tiny bit because it actually goes off into the back over here. It actually goes off behind it, right? Because these have that little protrusion off the end. And if I grab a little bit of this, some of my other colors here, I can sort of build that little end, right? It has that little part that goes off the back end. There we go. And I also need one of those right here. And that one has a little bit of this as well. Yee, where do I put it? Where do I put it? And it's coming over this direction. This has the same off the back of it. Okay. So we've got those. And what about this yellow one right here? The yellow one has it coming off the bottom of it. So let's just sort of bring this, just giving the suggestion of that coming down right there off the back. Okay. Alrighty. And then now it's not, to me, it's absolutely not balanced yet, but we have a lot of work to do before it becomes balanced. Ah, so over here, we need to counterbalance this color, right? And that's where we have this little guy right here, that bud. So here's the bud right here. So you can see it again. Hello, bud. And that bud, if you look here, is sticking way out off to the side, right? So that's what I want to do is I want to put this bud way out over here. And that's going to help balance this whole thing. And so that is one of the orangey ones. So I'm going to grab a little bit of that orange, similar color to this. And I'm going to come way over here and I'm actually going to look at the actual bud in front of me. Let me see. You can see the bud from up there. It's right here. So it's actually a combination of orange on the end. There's some orange right here. And then it sort of comes back like this. And I have to add some yellow or some of this golden. Right now I'm using quinacridone sienna from Daniel Smith. It may actually be too orange. I have to add a little bit of Aussie, the Aussie yellow. So this comes down like this into there. It also comes across here. So that's the little one right there. And then I'm going to add just a tiny bit more yellow for the tail because it's got a nice little tail to it. Hello, little tail. All right. Yay. So that's cantilever. It's over here, right? Nice. Love that. I could have brought it out even more over to here, but it's all right. That is a-okay. I can make decisions with leaves. See how the leaves come out past it here? So we've got that, and we still have more leaves coming out in that direction. So that's good. That's good. That'll counterbalance it all. All right. That's the basis of the flowers. So before I go back in and work on the flowers more, I'm going to let them dry. That way, it's easier for me to put more detail in on them. And I am going to come in now and just get an idea of where the leaves are. Now I'm going to switch from the flat brush, which I like to use for the flowers. I'm going to switch to the round brush because now I want to do leaves, and the leaves are better done with a round brush because of the shape. Okay. And so let's grab some of the greens here. Let's see where. Now I'm going to refer back to this picture because I want these leaves coming out over this way, right? So I can even, if I want to, take my still life and I can turn it for myself so I can kind of get a feel for where the leaves are. So I'm going to start with the lighter green because I can always darken it. So I'm taking that cobalt green pure and I'm adding a little bit of the cadmium yellow to it. So it's a little bit lighter than what I'm going to end up with. And first, I'm going to put this one down, way down over here. And it is going to be like this. And it's coming down. Do not remember we're doing impressionistic. So since we're doing impressionistic, we're not doing exact. Do not worry yourself about, oh, is it the right shape? Is it the right, you're gonna you can come back in later and adjust that. So do not worry. Right now I'm just looking at basic placement. Okay, so we've got another one here that is quite large. So large, in fact, that it comes out and over the blue a little bit right there. Okay, that's the placement of that one. Let's get some more of this light, light, light green. It's the lemon and the cobalt green, pure. And then where else do we have? Let's see. I'm turning this around to see what the leaves look like so I can make some decisions. Um, there is a leaf up behind the orangey one. Let's see. So we're going to bring this here, and we've got it right back behind here. So the nice thing about having a round brush is I have a decent tip to it right there so that I can get around the petals. If I were using the square brush, I wouldn't have as much control in it with it. Okay, so like that is back behind there. And then there's going to be another one. Um, there's one that's sort of sticking out a little bit like that, and it's a little bit more flat over this way. Okay, so it's looking down and it's sort of flat. There we go. All right. What else? Where else are we going to put something? Ah, we've got one that's back behind the yellow flower over here, and it comes up and then around, and then it comes down here and it's here. So let's put that one right there. All right. See, that's why I say this should have been maybe more out here, because when I look at my picture here, I've got this big flower behind here and this one's way out there, but that's okay. I'll put more leaves way out here. I'll adjust, I'll adjust. Normally, like with this sketch, I would have gone and maybe on the back of it, I would have done it this direction so that I could do the cantilever and see, make some decisions there before going to the big piece of paper. Okay, so I like where that's going. Of course, there's a big one right in here that goes back in behind here for this one. And it also comes down here, back behind that one. Right, so we're filling in a little bit of this area. Yee, where the tip comes in handy, and that's going to be a little darker, so that's fine. Now over here, we've got another one back in this area. So this is where I'm looking at my reference photo to see, what does that look like? And picking out the ones that I like. You don't have to do them all. Just pick the ones that you like. Okay. That one was sort of small, but I'm going to make it a little bit bigger. There we go. All right, what else do we have here? Who else? Who else? And then, of course, oh, there was another one right off of the edge here. It's sort of coming up like this. I can change the shape of these later too. So, do not worry. A little more yellow in there. All right, let's see what we have here. I'm going to look at the still life now to figure out what to put around the bud. So the bud has a little one coming right off the edge here and kind of like that. So that's good. I'm going to fill that in a little bit. Remember, we're painting, so you don't have to fill everything in. It's okay to leave some white space, all right? Like if you look here in between the leaf and the flower, there's white space. Over here, there's going to be some white space. Here, there's white space. So that's fine. You do not have to butt everything up in a painting, especially in an impressionistic painting. Okay, now we've got another one. Hello, hello. Welcome in, welcome in. Was that a raid? Darling Face Designs. Hello, hello. Thanks for bringing some folks in here. Okay, over here, we've got a great little leaf just like this. I am doing a painting of a still life. So this is the still life. Hey, thank you. Oh, the magpie's cupboard. Thank you for the raid. Um, so this is from my garden. It is some nasturtium that I picked earlier today. And I also took a bunch of reference photos And the reference photos are available on my website under the events tab for this event, but there are a whole bunch of different versions of it, so that you can print it off and paint this image. So those I took those pictures earlier today. And what I'm doing right now is working on a 100% cotton paper by Fumui. It's a watercolor block, which I like because then you don't have to stretch anything or tape anything down. It's all glued around the edges. And you'll notice it's holding the paper down. Hallelujah. Yay. And as I'm doing this, I'm thinking, ooh, this one probably needs to be just a little bit bigger. So now's the time to just make this a little bit bigger. And nice. No worries there. I'm just putting down the lighter colors so that we don't have to we'll be putting darker colors over top. But I'm just getting positioning right now. Let's see. Okay, so there was that one. And then there's one more. It's like just looking to the side and it's up here. So I'm actually looking at my still life, which means the flowers in front of me, as well as referring back to the pictures like this in order to determine where things are on the picture plane and what's darker, what's lighter, but then making decisions as an artist. Ooh, I'm going to change this and I'm going to change that, right? Yes. Okay. So we have our basic placement. So do you see what I mean by cantilever? Um, is you've got your vase not in the center but off to the side, and then you've got your composition going off to the side here. Okay. I did the same thing, something similar when I did the initial image. I have my orchid right here just off screen, and I also provided the photographs that I used for this as well, um, in that same event tab or on YouTube under the community tab. I made a community post, but you see how this goes cantilever off to the side, and then you've got the center of the flower here, or the plant is not in the center of the page, it's slightly off to one side. So I'm using that same sort of technique here for these, for showing these. Oh, they're so pretty. So pretty. I love, who doesn't love having fresh flowers on the table, right? Nice. But this is a very impressionistic painting. I'm not doing anything where I'm trying to be a perfectionist here. No, no, no. Okay. Now I'm gonna, right now, because this is dry, right? I'm going to put some of the branches down inside there. So do you see how there are some of these branches go down inside there? It's green and a little bit of sort of green brown. So I'm going to get a little bit of the Aussie red gold, and I'm going to start by putting some of that in there. And then I'm going to grab some of the green with it. And I'm just referring to my picture, or I could refer to the actual vase and the plants right here in front of me. They're just sort of all over the place inside there. And these flowers, there's a branch coming up here. Let's get a little bit more green. So there's some more green in there. We've got more greens coming down in here. I do need to make sure that it's not too dark when it's inside the glass, right? So I'm just getting some water and I'm picking some of that up because I don't want the part that's behind the glass to be too dark, right? It's supposed to be sort of behind the glass, all right? Actually, I need to make the edge of the glass right here a little bit. Oops. No, more blue, more blue. Come on. Pick up a little bit of that blue, and we're going to have a little rim right here, right? little rim of darkness coming here. So I'm just doing that so I can delineate. Here's where the rim is. Let me bring that up so you can see. See how I added that little bit of dark blue so that you could kind of see, oh, okay, that's where the edge of the rim is. All right, cool. Let's get some more of these like little wispy sort of branches coming down in here. Okay, well, we've got this one's definitely going to be like coming over and down inside there. A little bit more of this Aussie red gold. There we go. And if I want it to look more like it's behind the glass, I'm just using a clean paper towel and lifting some of that out so it's not so dark. All right. There's going to be a lot more coming in here. There we go. And a little bit more of the green mixed with the Aussie red gold because we've got this is going to be coming up. Each one of these leaves, right, is going to be coming up and connecting with something in here. I can always perfect it later. I'm just sort of giving myself a visual aid here of what's going where. This one, yee, this one, it comes out this side of it and it comes up into here. There we go. Whew, this needs to be a little broader, right where it reaches that, right there. There we are. Okay, let's find some more. So I'm mixing the green with a little bit of yellow. This little one that's down here is the one that has that really funny, like sort of crook in it where it's moving there. Okay, what about the other ones? The other ones, a little bit of yellow in with that. So I'm looking at like, where are all those going? This one actually comes from the middle here and goes down this way. So I've got that going. And then there's another one down here. And more will come down here. I'm just sort of building the lines of where the leaves would be. Now, this leaf out here, you can see it sort of meanders, right? And what's really nice is the one that's natural sort of has a little crook in it and it comes up here. See that right there? So let's see if we can put that in there. That has just a little bit of the red in with it, with the green. Just a tiny bit of green with the red. And let me see where it goes. So it is attached to this, but it also comes, it's coming from in here. It's sort of like the branch part of it. This is the main branch part. So it's just slightly darker. And if it's too dark, right, what do? You just put a little bit of water on it and you pick it up with a clean part of your paper towel. All right. You can just soften it a little bit like this right here, the Aussie gold right there, a little too much. So I'm just putting a little bit of water on it and lifting a little bit of the color out so it won't be so in your face. I will add a little bit more in there. Then that way it's sort of doesn't look so alone, right? There we go. It is just still a little bit too orange, right? So more water. The nice thing about a watercolor paper is that you can, I mean, a 100% cotton watercolor paper is you can work with it. You can put color down and pick color back up. Okay, cool. Now we need to have some like little sort of yellowish green, more yellow than green. I'm using the Turner's yellow with a tiny bit of green. And what do we have here? We have this. Let me see how that comes down. I'm looking at the actual plant. Okay, this actually comes down back behind here. We're just bringing it right up there. This one goes where? Hey, this one goes in like this. Right now, I'm just using a light yellow green. I can always darken it later, right? I'm just getting placement. Where am I putting things? Where am I putting them? This one goes down in here. This leaf, this leaf right here. I already got that leaf. Okay. So this one, we're bringing this one out here. And this one, we're bringing off of here. And then we just have a little bit. There we go. Okay. So I'm just incorporating them one into the other. All right, cool, cool, cool. Now at this point, I might look at it and go, oh, you know what? I need another leaf down in here. But for right now, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to go with what I have for now. Uh, the nice thing about this watercolor is I could leave it, come back to it tomorrow, just spray this with some water, and it'll reactivate the paints, and then I'm ready to go again. All right, let's do some more work on the flowers because that way the leaves can dry, right? Oh, and also we're going to need some sort of shadow, aren't we? We're going to need a little bit of shadow. Let me slap a little shadow in there right now because the shadow, I'm going to assume there's a little bit of shadow down here. And so, what color do we want our shadow to be? It's going to need to be some of that blue, right? And maybe just a touch of the purple. Ooh, too much purple. Okay. More blue. That's why I'm mixing it on here before I put it on the surface. And maybe a little bit more of this other blue. There we go. And just for right now, I'm going to just sort of like bring a little bit of a shadow in here and then sort of, right? Because we have little shadows from those. I'm not sure where the tabletop is right now. We'll have to figure that out later. Right. Uh, all right, we got some shadow going. That helps with the counterpoint. Um, all right, let's see, let's see. I want to bring a little bit more of that in here so that it looks like it's coming off of, like the light is coming from over here. Okay, cool. Now, let's go back to the flowers. So you see how you sort of build the flowers, you let them dry. You build the leaves, you let them dry. You build the um, vase, you let it dry. So I'm moving to different parts of the painting to allow these other areas to dry so that it's easy for me to work back into them. And now instead of going with the flat brush that I used for the flowers earlier, I'm going to go in with the round brush because now I want just a little bit more control, just a little control. So for this orange one, I do need to deepen it just a little bit, just a little bit. But I think I'm going to deepen it with the same orange and a little bit of the Turner yellow because I want to make it just that little bit richer. Okay. And it needs to be a little bit darker on the inside, right? We can leave the outside a little more white and we'll just bring a little bit, another layer into the inside here, which will make it look like it's a little deeper down on the inside here. There we go. So just putting a second coat on will naturally make it look deeper anyway. And I'm putting the deeper toward the middle. There. So it's darker in the middle and lighter on the outside. Let me bring it up to you there. Okay. We're not done yet because I'm going to put some striping on it, and the striping will come later. So right now I'm just deepening the center of the flowers. So this one had this deep red and just a tiny bit of purple, but I'm going to start with just the scarlet red toward the middle because when I'm looking at it, actually it does get a little darker in the middle. Never mind, I'm going to pull a little bit of purple with that. And same thing, I'm just coming in the center here and I'm making it look like it's a little darker in here. Just giving it that little bit of extra depth there. There we go. Nice. And then this yellow one, instead of having it be just the Turner yellow, I'm going to come in with a combination of the Turner yellow and a little bit of the Aussie red gold because I just want this next layer to be a little more gold because the center here is a little more gold, right? And just sort of going in the direction of the way that the leaf would or the petal would grow, right? Now I put a little bit too much in the middle there, so I'm going to lift some of that out. And if I felt like it was way too much, then what would I do? Just use my little scrubber brush and I would scrub back into it and lift a little bit more of that pink or that yellow out of the middle. There we go. That's fine. That's fine. All right. Then with this little one, I'm just looking to see what I need to do with that. I'm going to go to the smallest brush that I have out here because if I do details on this, I want it to be that much smaller. I'm just going to use a little bit of yellow here because I want to introduce a little bit of yellow into that because there's actually a lot of yellow on the actual plant. Okay, there we go. Yay, we're getting there. Um, let's see. Ooh, remember how I said earlier that the 100% cotton paper can bleed? It can bloom if you've got lots of water. So do you see what I did here? Where I brought extra water in here and now we've got some blooming. I love that. Okay. I personally love that. Some people don't like blooming. I love blooming. Okay. So it's developing. It's developing. Now let's look at those leaves again because now we have to leave that, right? We've got to leave it for a moment. Actually, I can come in here with a little bit of that Turner yellow, which is the warm yellow. And in the center of these flowers is sort of that warm yellow. So I'm just throwing a little bit of that warm yellow in here and just a little bit of the warm yellow in the center and back behind here because they do have yellow on that back part. There we go. Okay. And this one needs to be a little more gold. Remember I said I was putting that little bit back behind here? It needs to be a little bit darker. That tail. There we go. So we see the tail back behind that one. Joop. Nice. All right. So they're developing. They're developing. They're starting to get some depth and dimension to them. Um, Still very impressionistic. Like I said, I am not a realist. This is all just about having fun and being impressionistic. All right, let's look at the leaves a little bit. What I'm noticing, like I said, in the middle of the leaf here, you see the little yellow dot right there in the middle of the leaf. So I'm actually going to take a little bit of yellow. Let's take the brighter yellow and see what happens when we put that sort of right here. And we're just going to let that dry. We're going to let it do its thing. Let me turn this and look at some of these other leaves here. So this one, we're going to have a yellow right there. This one, we're going to have a yellow right up here. This one will have a little yellow right up here. This one is the back, not the front. So here we're going to have a little yellow right there. And this one is actually going to be a little bit darker. Eek, just a little bit darker. A little bit darker right along here, right? Because it's facing that other way. It's a little darker on the bottom. There we go. So now we're looking at the leaves and saying, okay, where are the lights? Where are the shadows? You know, how am I gonna make it feel like that's what I'm looking at? Let's put this. Yee, I lost the tip. You see how it's kind of squashed? So I'm gonna go in here like this and get my tip back. And this one is right in there. I'm just putting the little bit of yellow right in there. So they don't all have the yellow, but there's the little yellow dot right there. And then I'm going to put a little bit more color around that. So I'm going to get a little bit deeper, like with this. Let me look at the leaf itself. Okay, the top of it is a little bit darker. The top area here is a little bit darker. It doesn't have to be exact, right? I'm not trying to be realistic. I'm just being impressionistic. All right, now you see this brush that I was telling you is the blender. The interesting thing is it's plastic and it has a hard bottom to it. So when something is wet, I can take the back end of it and I can look here and I can make little lines going. Usually I would use the back of my brush, but these brushes are they're very rounded on the bottom. So you need something a little bit harder like that. And you probably are wondering like, "Oh, is that what those brushes are for?" Is that why they have brushes that have the hard back to them? Yep, that's why. So you can, scribble into your artwork. So when I bring more green in there, what'll happen is the green will settle in those little lines, and then it'll sort of form a design. And when it dries, you'll have that design. So here I'm gonna get this little leaf right here wet, and then I'm going to put some little lines in here with this. There we go, like that. And then I'm gonna brush a little bit more paint over it, and then that will cause it to go down inside the lines right there. Okay, if you need me to hold it up longer so you can see, just let me know. Um, this one, I want it to be a little bit darker, right up in here, this area, and right in here. Just very impressionist. This is a little bit darker along here and along here. Just dropping in a little bit more green, so I'm spending a little bit more time on those leaves, right? Now this leaf right here, I'm wetting this area so I can drop in a little bit of color and then come in with the ooh, not too much color. Come on. And bring the wet, bring this in and get some lines going here. Let's do it this way. There. There we go. So those will settle down in those lines, that color. Nice. All right. What about the ones back behind? This one is a bit, we're looking at the back of the leaf. And so there's actually a bit more yellow on that leaf back behind there. just lift a little bit of that. Doesn't need to be that much yellow, a little bit more green. So it's just going back and forth, adding, subtracting, right? Since the one right behind where the petal is going to be a little bit darker, so I'm just darkening that just a little bit, adding a little more green down in there. So this part back in here is darker. Okay, we're getting there. We're getting there. Let me bring it up so you can kind of see where it's going. There you go. And I like where it's going a lot. A latte. All right. This one right here actually has a little yellow dot kind of right there. So I'm just adding a little bit of yellow there. And then there are some lines coming out. Of course, it's darker green back behind, right back behind here. It's a little bit darker where it's back behind these petals, like this. And then let me just get some water around the outside. And I didn't touch that little yellow spot in the middle, and now I'm going to put some lines here because I can see some lines going from that yellow spot right there. Okay, cool. So this one, there's going to be some lines in the back of this too. So let me get it wet and just radiating some lines out here. There we go. Just to give it a little bit of texture, right? Just a little texture. Now this one, I'm looking at the back of it, but it still has some radiating lines. Let me get some yellow right in the center here, because it still has some radiating lines. It's just lighter. I'm not going to darken that one so much. I'm going to bring in some yellow green. I'm just going to get it wet one more time. A little bit darker below the petals, right? And then, here we go. From here, we've got these going out like this. There we go. And now let me just make that stem just a little more dark so you can see it. There you go. There's like the back of it, the back of the leaf instead of the front of the leaf. Okay, nice. We have these two leaves right here. Let's see what they look like. I think I need a different picture for those. Let's see what we're looking at here. Yeah, okay. So this has a little bit of yellow right here. Let's see, like right here. There we go. So that's just a little bit yellow. And then I'm just going to bring in a little bit of the green yellow right around here again. Of course, it's going to be darkest right underneath the petals. So I just added a bunch more green right there. You see how it's a little bit darker under the petal. And then I'm going to put my lines in. So this has a long line right there. There we go. Got it. Okay. So as it dries, so let me show you this one. You see how it dried and those little lines are in there? If you want to accentuate it, you just keep adding more color and it'll soak down into those lines. Okay, what else? What else? These over here. So the one back behind here. Well, let's do this one first. What am I doing with that one? First of all, that one needs a little bit darker line right here, like that comes up to it. And I'm going to assume this is the back of it. And so I'm just going to add a little bit of water and then to re-wet it. And then I'm just putting a few lines in here. So it's going to look like it's the back of it. There we go. And when we put a little bit more water or color there, that will accentuate the lines. Okay, there we go. Now this little one that's underneath here needs darker because we want contrast. And this one over here, this part, we need darker so we can have more contrast. Okay, so I'm always looking at contrast. Is it dark enough? Is it light enough? Always adjusting, adjusting, adjusting. There we go. So that's a little darker now. The underside is a little darker. Here I also need to make parts of this more dark so that it looks like it's three-dimensional. Same over here. I need a little bit more darkness in some areas. Okay. So you're just darkening and lightening, darkening and lightening. This one I need a little bit more dark right here next to the branch, the petal. Okay. And up here I need a little more darkness also to separate that flower from that leaf. But that's why you just work little by little. You build up your color like that so that you can come back in and you can adjust and darken those colors if you need to. Okay, there. All right, nice, nice. Almost done with the leaves, at least for what I'm going to do tonight anyway. We have this leaf, and this leaf. So let's take this one. We're just going to get this one wet with a little bit of yellow green right here. And then we're going to put some lines in it. So it's wet now. And this radiates out like this. Like that. I did refer to the picture initially, but now it's like I'm just putting in lines like I think it would be. But if you need to, you can look. When you look at the picture, do you see that big leaf? And you can actually see the little radiating bits coming off of it. So you definitely want to, use use something hard like that to get that subtlety for it. Okay, let's do this one. I'm just getting it wet for right now. Let's add a little bit more color so it can go down into the lines that I'm going to put in here. And this comes this way, like that. There you go. So now you can really see it on that one. Really see it. Okay, and the last one that we have to do is this one. So let me get a little bit more green and yellow on my brush here and come around. I'm going around that little yellow spot in the middle. Okay, while it's wet. So this is sort of the big, sort of comes out this way the most. There we go. Nice. So now you can see the radiating from the yellow in the middle there. Okay, fabulous. This one you don't see so much radiating on, so I'm going to adjust it just a little bit. I'm going to pick up some of the white or some of the green and see if it will leave some down in the little lines. If not, I can always wet it again and use the back end of this one more time. Okay. Oh, a little bug got in there. All right. Let's go back to the flowers now that the leaves are most of the way done. Oh, you know what I didn't add? I didn't add that little bud that was sticking up there. The little bud, and the little bud is just a yellow green. So let's get some of the cobalt green and a little bit of yellow. And I'm looking at the picture, or I can look at the actual bud itself, but it is just sticking up right over here. Let me bring it over here like this because I can. And it just is like this. And it's coming back here, just like that. There we go. So I put the little bud out here, so it's sort of helping to balance the composition. Okay, there we go. Let's put a little bit more in here, a little more greenness in there. And I want a little more greenness in here. I have some green on my brush, so I'm just putting a little more in areas where I want it darker. Of course, I want it darker right here next to the bud. Okay, and I'm going to put a little bit darker right in here. There you go. Okay, so let's go back and visit the flowers again because what? They are dry. It's fabulous. Fabulous. I love that they're dry. Now I'm going to go with the small brush because I'm going to look at putting in some details. Now I'm noticing, is this a little bit of color right there? Yep. Okay. I'm going to use this part of this brush. I'm going to use some clean water and I'm just going to scrub that out because what? I have watercolor paper here and I can. There we go. So that makes that dot a little bit less. Okay. And let's see what else. What else? This over here actually has the cool thing about this yellow flower is that it has that sort of bright burgundy in the middle of it, right? So let me look at the flower and we'll go ahead and we'll put that detail in, that burgundy detail. So I'm going to start with this quinacridone sienna, which is a kind of an orange, but I want to add to it a little bit of this red. So let's add a little bit of red to it. Nice. So I've got kind of an orange and then I added a red. And this actually goes right here. It just starts right back in here and then it comes up and has little bits that come off of it. Okay. So I'm just going right inside, sort of toward the center there. And then it has little bits that come up a little bit higher, a little bit higher. There we go. And then, so this is when you use your small brush and you bring your details in, right? So this comes all the way down in here, and then it just sort of comes this way. I'm looking at the actual flower. This one has a little bit more here. It's a little deeper in there, and then it has a much broader bit that comes up. We go, oh, that's fun. That's fun, right? Putting that in there. Hey, that's the fun part. Okay. And then this one actually comes up. Let me look at my picture. This one is a little bit lighter, so I'm adding a little bit of water to it. And it's going to come up. It's kind of coming from here. And comes down inside there. There we go. Okay. And then actually down inside here, there's a little bit of green. So I'm just going to grab a little bit of green just all the way down inside. And it's sort of it's like there's a little green throat inside there. Okay. Yep. Down near the middle. I'm softening the end of that green so it's not so much of a line. There we go. And then what do I have on my other ones? Okay, this one was very yellow on the inside and it has some streaky lines to it. So I'm actually going to bring the purple in here and I'm just going to put some little lines in purple radiating out from there because that's what it looks like down in there. Okay. And then this one, what do you look like on the inside? Woo, you're incredible. Lots of those little lines. So let's get some more of these little sort of part red, part purple, part orange lines. And I'm looking at the actual flower there. So it's got this little thing here, and then it kind of comes in like this. And then we've got a little bit darker, and it's just got some little lines. Again, it sort of has these, they almost look like tiger stripes. There we go. That works. This one has a little bit of brown. So we don't have brown on here. How are we going to get brown, right? Well, we can take some of this darker green, this apatite that I was put on there earlier, and I can put it with a little bit of the purple. Ah, there we go. Now we've got a brown. See how fast we got a brown? A little bit of purple, a little bit of green. And I needed that because right in the center of this flower right here, there are little spots where that's where it collects the pollen, right? And I'm going to use that same color in here so that I've kind of got it in more than one spot. And then I'm also going to put some of that in here in a few spots. So they look the same, right? In the center, if you were to look in the center. Okay, let me do this so they're not so dark. Nice. Fabulous. All right. There we go. So I've got some detail, right, going on the flowers. Now let me move this out of the way so I can just look at sometimes you have to move things and just look at the composition. And then I also like to take my mat and let me put the mat around it so I can look at where the composition's going. And maybe I would decide to make some changes. Now, this is the white mat right there. Ooh, cool. See, now I'm moving it. The nice thing is with the 9 by 12, I have a little bit of play in the mat, which direction I can move it. So I'm going to move it a little bit more over this way, more toward that edge, and move it up so that this shadow is touching the bottom. All right, wow. I like that. I like where that's going. All right. So I may readdress this tomorrow. Sometimes I like to sit on it. I like to look at it. I like to, with fresh eyes, reevaluate my pictures, reevaluate maybe the live, and say, oh, you know what? There are a couple more little down in here. There's another little bud. Maybe I could throw another bud in there somewhere to sort of balance it out, right? But I I really like where it's going. I'm going to bring it up close for you so that you can see what's happening here. Let me put the black around it. Sometimes it's a little more dramatic, the composition with the black, right? Like I am okay since it's cantilever. It's not in the center. It's cantilever. I'm okay with lots of white space over here to balance the composition. I like that a lot. So let me bring that up closer to you. Oh, that was a, by the way, that was a skinny mat. So that's actually a mat that's a low profile. This is a standard 11 by 14 mat. So this is the standard size where it's thicker here. And you can see that still works really well. Also with just a standard 11 by 14 mat in terms of how wide this is here. Okay. That works as well. You want to look at it with these various mats because you're going to have to decide somewhere along the line, where am I going to put my signature also? So I would put my signature right down here. That way, whether I'm using the wide mat or the narrow mat, you're still going to be able to see the signature, right? Clearly. All right. There we go. Let me put those away. And so that is all for this particular workshop. I hope you enjoyed doing the test, the little sketch in the beginning, and then seeing how I develop going back and forth between the still life, meaning the actual uh, plant or item, and some of the different pictures to get variations on where to place things. Also, I shared with you how to use the the flat top brush to start out with your flowers. I like the way it gives you sort of a chunky look to the flowers. There's the flowers for you. But you see how the flowers are not even? If I used a round brush, they'd be a lot more even. I like the chunkiness of using a flat top brush for that. And then the leaves, because they are going to be more uniform, I came in with the large round brush. And then, of course, to get the little lines on the leaves here, I made sure they were wet with color. And then I used the back end of this blender to be able to get those 3D sort of lines going, right? Okay, so I hope you enjoyed the workshop. Thank you for being here with me for it. This has been fabulous. I'm going to revisit this tomorrow and decide what else it needs, if anything, and then finish it up. And after it's finished, then I will show you next week when we come back for the workshop. I'll show you the finished piece. And so, again, thank you for joining me for the workshop.